Hello and welcome to Dinim number 10. 10 is a very official number, isn't it?
Agreed.
We're picking up where we left off last week in the Brisker Dinim series. We left off, if you are just tuning in and you don't know what that means, where I left off, then you have homework to do. You got to go and learn Dinim number 9, and then you'll be ready for Dinim number 10. James Rogers, did you like the answer I gave you about the human consumption?
That the nefesh never leaves.
Yeah.
I need to ask you about that, but when I read it, I wasn't in a place where I could formulate my head at the time. So
think about it though. Techiyas Amesim is the resurrection of the dead, and the premise of death and resurrection is that a human, dafka a human, his nefesh never really leaves him, because that's long term in the grave. But a body after several days, first of all, you probably wouldn't. Again, here's the question, guys. Here's the question. For those that we're going to just do a quick flashback to the eating meat series, right? The question was, I thought Adam could not eat meat. He was a vegetarian. Then Rabbi Katz says, we learn don't eat the limb of a living animal from Adam. Then we say, how could that be? He's a vegetarian. Then we say his one commandment that he was given, which is, James, look back over the recordings and you'll see that one verse where we learn everything from Adam, that all 7 laws were derived from that verse.
Yeah.
Then we say, but again, how could it be? The answer is Adam was not permitted to kill or put to death, but an animal that died naturally, he could eat, but could not, let's say, rip the leg off as it was dying naturally. Then we say, what was your question? How would you phrase your question there? It was from there, right?
The premise that I'm getting at was eating meat at all. It was only mentioned, and my big question is, where do they come up with eating meat from the verse given?
Right. The answer was it's just not illegal. Nowhere did the Torah forbid it. So then you said, okay, then per force, we should be able to eat dead bodies of people on the ground by your logic.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm saying no. Number one, this is very interesting here. I mean, I know it's repulsive, but it's very interesting. There's a wisdom of how humans decay when they're dead. Likewise, one of my favorite things is the wisdom of how to clean a fish. Type 1 or 2 if you've ever seen the wisdom of how to clean fish. Everybody? 1 2 2 1 1 1 1 2 2 2 2 1 1 1. It's very beautiful, isn't it? I mean, it's a real wisdom. I mean, you can clearly see, and James, back me up if you agree, or if you disagree, tell me. A fish is meant to be eaten. Can you agree with that?
Yes.
I mean, it's a beautiful cleaning. It's just, it's such a wisdom. That is like the essence of natural wisdom, cleaning a fish. And this is why in Torah we say that fish are like the souls of the righteous, because it's clearly a holy food, right? No one's going to say, "Ooh, you disgusting human, why are you eating that fish?" Right? It's just, in wisdom terms, it's a delicacy. You understand? It's very easy and pure to clean a fish. So a human decays with wisdom. Now remember what the human, what is going on with a human when he's decaying? His soul is returning to God. Please type 1 about that. You got to know that. His soul is returning to God. And what happens is a human decays through stages. You know how like a rocket ship goes up and there's like the phase and the things fall off and then it goes, and right? A rocket ship has apparatuses that trigger and fall. Type 1. There's stages of a rocket. The human body goes through identifiable and consistent stages. It's not just like, okay, today this body did that, and then it did this. There are stages of death. And the Chiddush is those stages, and this is profound. This is utterly profound. It is your nefesh breaking out of the body and returning to earth. Type 1 if you think that's interesting. It should be very interesting to you. It really shows spirituality in physicality. It really makes death into a beautiful thing rather than just like repulsive beyond belief. It's a beautiful story because the stages of death, and I've researched this, the nefesh literally escapes the body. It's like it wants out. It has to get out of the body. And it goes back into the earth, and that's the death experience spoken of in Torah and Kabbalah. Because it's your nefesh that you live with in this world. And it's your nefesh that ultimately goes back to God, and the higher levels of soul are not contained in the body the same way. So now, James Rogers, let's look at your question from those terms, right? When the body is returning to God, is there really any reason a Meshuggah person would suggest such a thing?
Well, can you clarify the question?
I don't want to say it repulsive, but I'll say it repulsive. Would anybody want to eat a decomposing body?
No.
Okay. So therefore the question doesn't exist. But if you wanted to entertain the question in the terms of forbidden, not for permitted, forbidden state, because it doesn't say anywhere in the Torah literally, right? The answer is the dam nefesh, the nefesh of man. By the time there's anything that wouldn't even kill a person, the dam nefesh is in the body. By definition. Because that's the experience of the nefesh going back to God. A cow has dam nefesh. Now here we're going to get less gross. The cow has dam nefesh too. The difference is human beings are holy, cows are not holy. The quality of nefesh of a man is radically different, existentially different than a cow. The cow, it is illegal to eat dam nefesh while it's alive. We say in the Talmud, you'll like this, James. What is the difference between a man and a cow? A man has mazel, a cow doesn't have mazel. This is really a mamash great answer for you. When a man is walking in the woods and he trips and falls, you know what happens to that guy, James? He twists his ankle and he says, ow! And then he goes home and he yells and he gets on crutches, and a week later he's fine. When a cow falls into a hole, you know what he says? He doesn't say ow, he says moo. And then he dies because he has no mazel. There's no angelic protection over the cow. They have a much easier rate of dying. The man isn't going to die so easy because he has mazel. He has heaven watching after him. The cow's going to go moo for about an hour. In that hour, he's agonizing. Moo. That's his soul leaving the blood. The vapor going through his nostrils. An hour later, that cow is pronounced dead. There is zero dam nefesh in that cow. Zero. He is now fit for consumption. A human would have dam nefesh literally until the end of time in resurrection of the dead. It is never permitted. If you want to get on a really kind of grotesque halachic way of viewing it. While the cow is mooing, the nefesh is still there. Does that answer the question? I think it should.
That particular one, yeah. I'll have a whole lot more, I'm sure. I'm having a really hard time. with this for some reason. I don't know. Maybe it's because for 15 years, I've been into this. It's always been Adam was a vegetarian, only permitted to eat.
Well, this is the thing. Rabbi David Katz fights the party line, and he gets blamed for it because the party line is taken from those that never learned the Talmud correctly, right? And people in Torah have a problem with it too because they don't understand Pshuto. Remember, Pshuto is rabbinic reality. Adam, from rabbinic reality, is an akum. But in Kabbalah reality, as the word of the Ger states, Adam was, let's say, a Ger, a Noah, an Abraham, okay? So the reality of Adam is he's not eating that dead cow. The rabbinic Adam, he is a goy and an akum. On a lesser level than Noah. Noah was on a bigger level, Abraham a bigger level until Sinai. That is rabbinic reality called the Pshuto. It's not reality-based. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
And I would even go as far as to say, well, there are those that say Noah was a lowlife, and there are those that say Noah was great. How's the best way to answer it? I just not realized this now. In reality, in Kabbalah reality, Noah was like Moses. Great guy, tzaddik. Why was Noah then seen as a low life? Lefi Pshuto, Noah was low. Why? Because he was under Sinai. Rabbinic reality is not reality. It's Lefi Pshuto is something else. It has a different function. You see what I'm saying? It's a different way of viewing the Torah. And it doesn't take reality into consideration. Remember, and James, remember my famous story in the Talmud, okay? There's I bought a cow off of you, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And at 3 o'clock, we did the transaction, and I went into the meadow to collect my cow. Lo and behold, the cow had a calf. And I went to you and said, James, I'm taking my calf. You said, Ma pitom, give me back my cow, my calf. I said, get lost, buddy, it's mine. By the time of the sale, James Rogers, it was mine. What is the reason for rabbinic reality? That's a great question, Jacques. Hold on. Pay attention to this story. You, James Rogers, say, no. That thing gave birth before you paid for it. I say, James, you're crazy. So we go to for a beis din. I say, everybody, the cow is mine because I got there and it was just freshly born. James Rogers says, nah, I'll tell you why Katz is wrong. That cow, I measured the dilation of the mother, and it was at 10 centimeters. At a certain time before Katz came. If Katz is right, he is defying science and nature. I'm telling you, it is impossible that animal was born when Katz said it was born, based on the scientific facts. I am called Bari Tov. It's kind of a halakhic code for I'm strong and confident and sure. James is sure also, called Bari Grua. He's a different kind of sure. The beis din says, all right, guys, make an oath that you're not lying and split it. Sell the cow and the calf and split the value. We cannot figure out who's right. Do you see how rabbinic reality plays into account here? Rabbinic reality addresses and adopts other circumstances that others don't. So I saw with my eyeballs, and James saw by numbers and dollars and cents, so to speak. And that thinking is so strong, it's almost as good as my claim. So rabbinic reality takes that into effect. Here's another one, Jacques, rabbinic reality. When you shecht an animal, it's killed and kosher, even if the soul is still in the animal. You understand that? I shecht an animal, it is halakhically kosher, even though the soul is still in the animal. Because rabbinic reality said anytime you shecht an animal, it's kosher. So then the rabbis say, but since it literally in reality might not be kosher, we'll tell you the rabbinic structure of how to guarantee that it's kosher. So that way you're not eating the limb of a living animal, even though by the Torah you're allowed to, because it transforms when you shecht it. When you kill an animal through slaughter, it is no longer called a living animal. That is called a steak. You see how rabbinic reality would call that a steak? But in scientific reality, Jacques, give me one or two, yeah? In scientific reality, you would be eating the limb of a living animal. So the Chazal have a rabbinic reality that they weigh into it. Sometimes it's logical, sometimes it's illogical. Can we make a rabbinic claim that Adam was an akum? The answer is yes. You only want Adam to not be an akum because you believe in a reality where Adam was, Kabbalistically high, Adam was a ger, Adam did mitzvahs, Adam was a prophet. I don't know if Adam was a prophet. I don't know if Adam was great. Adam may have been really an akum. So even though I don't believe that, but you understand why the rabbis can say that? That's right, learning by the senses. It's like the obvious answer. What's the problem, Jacques? There's no reason to say Adam was great, other than you want to believe he was great. Yeah, but you want him to be great, but there's no requirement of Adam to be great.
I always thought Adam fell and humanity has just been picking himself off the ground ever since.
That's also true. But Kabbalistically, people want Adam to be great. And I agree with you. But from a very rationalist, literalist perspective, there's nothing great about Adam from the Torah after he sinned. You follow what I'm saying? He is an akum. It's not it's not supposed to feel good, right? It's taking the Torah on a not so much a rationalist perspective, but from a very obvious and simple perspective. The problem is when people make it into a dogma and they don't entertain the rest of Torah, which is Kabbalistic and realistic based. The idea is that everyone before Sinai was akum, and post Sinai it was this and that. I know it's an interesting way of viewing it. It's Lafi Pshuto. It's not meant to be reality. So what the Brisk Rav, for example, is doing here is challenging Lafi Pshuto. That's what we call the Torah of Shem. When you step back and say, maybe Adam was not an akum. Maybe Abraham was not, because the kasha comes, are you going to say Abraham was an akum also? Then that's exactly the question of the Brisk Rav. Jacques type 1. That's the Brisk Rav's question. Are you going to say Abraham was an akum? Because if you say Abraham's an akum, you're saying that because you say Adam was an akum. Noah was an akum. This is why from the mouth of God we heard too. Because you cannot say the Torah exists only in one plane of thinking. So there's 70 faces of the Torah. You can say Adam was an akum. Then you'll say, if Adam was an akum, was Abraham an akum? Good question. I guess not. So Abraham was not an akum. Maybe Noah wasn't an Akum also. So now you can understand how the Chazal entertain simultaneously views of Lefi Pshuto and views of reality. The problem is that today people only acknowledge Lefi Pshuto. And when I say people only, we're not talking the rabbis make you only acknowledge Lefi Pshuto. People have lost the sensitivity of the Torah of Shem and broad-minded thinking. When they read Rashi, say things like, for example, is Adam an Akum? I'm not saying Rashi says that, but let's take it for example, hypothetically. They don't even know where Rashi got it from. They didn't look it up in the Rashi. They don't know if Rashi took it from the Talmud, what the Talmud's Havamina was. They lost the Masorah of why are the Chazal saying this and this and Akum, this was this and that. And they're making it like there's no other view. And this is not a machlokus. We're not saying it has to be this way or that way, or it has to be both. You have to understand the perspective of the speaker. One who says Adam is an Akum, that is not a dogmatic statement or an absolute statement. It's an angle. And Jacques, you want me to tell you the angle of that statement? Because it's a Tosfos in Yavamus. The question is, did Adam contain biblical impurity such as the biblical impurity that comes down at Sinai for Jews and Gerim? Now do you understand why we suggest Adam might be an Akum? Because the question is Adam biblically impure when he dies on the same level as you, Jacques, when you would die, as a ger attached to Israel? Different question, is it not? You guys follow me on this?
Yes.
So then you get Rabbi Bob, who says, look, Tosfos says Adam was Akum. He wasn't ger, like David Katz said. He was Akum. Now do you see that the reason why it's a perversion for Rabbi Bob to say that? If it all comes from Adam, then he must have... That's Kabbalistically. But the Tosfos ask a question. Did Adam have the biblical impurity such as those after Sinai? It's a halachic question. Both are right. 100%. And by the way, you know what? As I'm writing this down, we're going to do that Tosfos. Not today. But I see now it would be a great Tosfos. Do Tosfos of Adam and Tameh. Non-Jew learning Torah. That'd be a great thing. Jacques, do you want to do that Tosfos? I do. Not today, but we're going to do it when I come back. So that's the thing. Adam was Akum, or you can suggest he was Akum vis-a-vis biblical impurity. So again, now do you understand? Rashi then, let's say he quotes that Tosfos, or that idea. Then you have everybody on the internet saying Adam was an Akum, David Katz is wrong for saying Adam was a ger. And then they'll say there's other opinions, it's a machlokis. Is that true, Jacques? Is it a machlokis? Are there different opinions in this? No. No. You know, you're going to close the door on all of Kabbalah, all of the innards of Torah, that Adam was on a huge level because Tosfos said he was Akum because you decided to take it out of context. That's why there's rabbinic reality. It's a construct that allows the rabbinic mind to wrap itself around a topic in order to produce a logical outcome to a situation of reality that we cannot know. The Torah doesn't know what a non-Jew can eat because we don't have laws of Akum. What we have is the laws of Jews, B'nai Yisrael, type 1. The Jew has to slaughter an animal. Guess what else the Torah did? Who knows the answer of what else the Torah did to oscillate and contrast with Jewish law? Who knows the premise? I'll give you a hint. It starts with a G and it ends with an R.
Ger.
Right. So there's Ger law sprinkled throughout the entire Jewish law to give you like a rain cloud effect of the non-Jew in the Torah. So now we know by the cooperation of Jews and Ger what Jews can do better, what Gerim can do better, and as we've seen, what Akum can do better. Because by the inference of the Jew-Ger ratio, every time we can know the Akum. So since we know how Jews feel about eating dead humans and how Gerim feel about eating dead humans, we can derive Dinim for 7 laws based on the Jew-Ger law. There's one law, one Torah, one law for you, correct? And it says Ger there, if I'm not mistaken. And the Akum is not mentioned there, if I'm not mistaken. And therefore, we don't know the reality of the Akum. But we can figure it out from logic and introspection. Based on Lafi Pshuto. You guys with me or not with me? Jacques, where are you holding me here? All right. What's the 0.5? Vocalize. Marianne and I vocalize. You want the ultimate answer of Lafi Pshuto, am I correct? Have you seen my videos on Lafi Pshuto? As I've been doing a lot of them lately. Or better yet, I hear your question. You're asking, why, period, is there Lafi Pshuto to rabbis? Why do they have the ability to give answers that are not accurate and correct? Is that what you're asking? You should be, because that's what I'm asking. Well, that's the question. I had the answer a couple weeks ago. I thought of it. I meditate on this a lot. Let me just think about it for a second. What gives the rabbis the right of Lafi Pshuto? That's a good question. I'm not sure.
Is it because it's a collection of different thoughts from different men throughout history, and they would come together and definitely disagree, but they're all onto something?
Not necessarily. What it is in order to know. This is like my life work in progress, Lafi Pshuto. Trying to really, I've mastered the first thing I've mastered up till now is really knowing what Lafi Pshuto is, right? Basically, why do we say Adam was an Akum? Type 1. That's where we know that. We know what's behind that. You know what I mean? That's not a mystery of the thinking and rationale behind it. But we want to know, why are you allowed to think that? Why are you allowed to say something that's not true? When you know something is more true. We know that Adam was elevated. He's not an Akum. But yet, we can understand why they say he was Akum. I'm going to think for 1 second. Why do you say... Are you asking me, or is that a rhetorical question? Yeah. Well, Yisro was not a convert. The Lafi Pshuto says Jethro was a convert. That's the thing. Lafi Pshuto says he was a convert. And Lafi Pshuto is the obvious answer. Obviously, Lahid Gayer in Hebrew means to convert. Jacques, it is the source of confusion. Capital THE. And you know what? It's the only confusion. The only confusion. This is what everybody's confused about. Everybody. And it's such a shock when people learn what Pshuto is. And it's clear, it's written clear. It's not even something like you need a translation, an art scroll. Pshuto is a science. And again, how many people on planet Earth are on to Pshuto? One, Rabbi David Katz. Why? God only knows. That's true. It definitely creates a question, makes you dig. But then we can say we don't want to dig by a false premise in the question. Let me just think for a second here. I want to see if I can answer this. I mean, I've played around with it enough. I'm just trying to jog my memory. Yeah, it's legitimate to the rabbinic system. It's the essence of the rabbinic system. It is the essence of rabbinic system. The question really becomes, is the rabbinic system legitimate? That's your question. That is your question. You know what? That's the answer, Jacques. That is the answer. God allows it. That's your answer. That is your answer. How do you feel about that? That's the bottom line of why you're confused because why does God allow it? What is God going to do? Throw lightning bolts and strike them dead? So how do you stop it? How do you stop it? Yeah. The Torah was given to man. And you have to say Adam was an Akum to derive certain truths. Is that not correct? So what you're asking, Jacques, is a different question. Why does God let moron man believe Adam was an Akum out of the context of biblical impurity, type 1? And I'm saying, tune in to Soul Mazel with Rabbi Katz, because that's Rabbi Katz's fight. And when you take on that fight, they're like, whoa, how does he say Adam wasn't an Akum? Rabbi Katz is saying, do you know where Rashi got that idea? He got it from a totally different discussion. And then they'll say, what? You mean like against 2,000 years of tradition? Meaning no one knows the Inyan. No one bothered to look up the Inyan. When you get to the bottom of Pshuto, it's really not that threatening. It's not that threatening. The Torah demands you to know the source and root of the Masorah. Then things can be put into perspective and make sense. Then, look, the Rambam says there's no ger till Yovel, type 1, Jacques. There's no ger until Jubilee, type 1. That's called what? Pshuto. So what am I saying? Hey, boys and girls, did you know that Rambam had nothing to do with Ger Toshav Noahide? Did you know that? Did you bother learning the root and source of that Rambam? 99.9% will say, what are you talking about? Pshuto is everything. And they don't even know what the words Pshuto mean. Never even heard of it. They don't even know they're doing Pshuto. They don't even know they're doing Pshuto. And I'm saying if you would look it up, you would understand where Pshuto is. The Rambam's not simple. It's more complicated. No, Rabbi Katz, you're making it more complicated. You're confusing us. I'm confusing you by letting you know that the Rambam is not as simple and dumb as you want him to be. By the way, those are the words of the Brisk Rav. He says the Rambam cannot be taken at surface level. It's impossible. So what do people do? They learn the Rambam on surface level. Did they learn the Brisk Rav? No. Why? No reason. Kacha. What do you think? What do you think, Jacques? James? Ada, what do you think? It's a nightmare.
I'm glad you see what I'm seeing the same thing, and I guess it's the old world hanging out where you want to be polite and not challenge and not say anything because you don't want to show disrespect. But yeah, a lot of this stuff just I could ask you questions forever. I could not stop with this because it's frustrating. It's confusing.
That's it. And then I show the source that I'm called the aggressor. You know, I'm called the frustrated and the abrasive one. And I'll take it, you know? Yeah, exactly. Learning Genesis on surface level. Exactly. And what you can't tell them no. They're allowed to learn it shallow. But what they cannot do is be allowed to be the authority. Shallow cannot be the authority. Okay? Ger is convert cannot be the authority because it never was the authority. It's a Lafi Pshuto at best. Served at best as Lafi Pshuto. Do you know how many people on the planet Earth understand Lafi Pshuto? Or even have really delved into what those two words mean, Lafi Pshuto? In all honesty, maybe 10 men on planet Earth today. It doesn't mean anything. It's rabbinic code. It has no translation. As do most oral Torah terms. That's why when people bring up the whole translation issue, you can't begin to discuss translation issue because rabbinic oral Torah doesn't have translatable terms. Ger Toshav is not translatable. Mark, you can quote me on that. Ger Toshav is not translatable. It is a rabbinic term for rabbinic reality, and it has at least 20 different mashma'ut, 20 different connotations. Ger is not translatable. That's why we call the book The World of the Ger. It is not a translatable word. I think Art Scroll has proven to us adequately it is not a translatable word. You see my frustration now. I mean, I hope this is crystal clear why I'm frustrated. You know, if more people would get into the real cause of the frustration and promote the frustration clearly, we would be better off. That's why I don't hold back in my classes with you guys. If we're going to succeed, you must know the Inyan at the root. This is why I've been diligent to teach things like Lafi Pshuto. Because ultimately, you got to know it. And I believe you can know it. I'm not that smart, and I know it. If I can learn it, and I can try to give it over, I'm positive you can learn it. It just takes diligence, sticking with it, and allowing yourself to get it. Repetition will drill it in, because the sages don't deviate. They use it consistently every time. That's the beauty of Lafi Pshuto. It allows itself to have a viral property. You understand what I mean by viral? When they use Lafi Pshuto, it literally copies itself. The rabbis cut and paste. They didn't say anything by themselves. Nothing. Nothing. Rashi never said anything. He cut and pasted every single word from the Dinim. Therefore, you have no right to get emotional over Rashi. They're not his words, not his opinions. He brought you the words of the Dinim. The Tanaim received that tradition from their rabbis. Therefore, an emotional response is not even possible. That's like being in a chat room with a robot and being insulted by how you are greeted by the robot. It's impossible. What you can then do is look at Rashi analytically and question where he got it from. How many of you guys saw my class at the wall where the Hasidic guy came in and I told him about that Rashi that he should look up? Which, by the way, he came back the next week and I talked to him. Rashi says, I don't know what this word means. Remember that? Everybody on planet Earth would read that Rashi, I don't know what this word means, and they would believe that Rashi said those words. Correct? 1 or 2. I don't know what this word means. Is it not fantastic that Rashi literally copied and pasted those words from a 2,000-year-old document called the Sifri? The Tanaim of the Sifri, like Rabbi Akiva Tanaim wrote, I don't know what this word means. And then Rashi copied and pasted it. Is that not incredible? Beyond belief. Because everybody on earth, that Parsha, got that wrong. So if you want to say, why is Rabbi Katz claimed to know this and no one else does? That Rashi is proof. Go ask your rabbis, tell them David Katz sent you, and ask them pshat on that Rashi. And ask your rabbi, did Rashi say that, Rabbi? Were those Rashi's words? How much do you guys want to bet? Every rabbi on this planet will simply respond to you, yes, those were Rashi's words. Anybody doubt that? Does anybody doubt my claim that nearly every rabbi on this planet will say those were Rashi's words? And then you would say to the rabbi, Rabbi David Katz says that they were copied and pasted from the Sifri. Would you please look it up and tell me if that's true? They would look it up, which they would not look it up because they don't even think that you'd have to. That's the thing. No one even thinks they have to. But if they did, they would see it, and I am again promising you, they would have to, at an intellectual honesty level, be forced to say, wow, that is a Chiddush. I.e., I did not know that. Type 1. So here's a little secret for you. Ger is exactly that. The story of Ger is that. Once upon a time, there was a guy named David Katz who happened to have the audacity to look up Ger on a verse in the Ten Commandments to find out that it's a non-Jew. So that a student of his can feel good about keeping the Sabbath like a non-Jew. Which goes against the Rambam, a Goyim Shabbos Chayav Misa. Now take what I just said and iterate that about 5,000 different directions. That's what Ger is. Does everybody now know what Ger is? It's looking it up in the verse, finding a Chiddush, teaching it on the internet, just like Rashi saying, I don't know. There's like 5,000 threads of this Rashi of I don't know. And I'm telling you, each time, the local common rabbi does not know where it came from. And you know how many of these things are available to man? Thousands and thousands and thousands. Why? Because here's another little secret for you. The Torah is very big. It's very, very big. And most people can only learn the surface level of Torah. Type 1, if any. Then, as you grow in rabbinics, there's only so much a person can cover in their lifetime. My question is to you, Rabbi, why do you think that you should know the Sifri on this Rashi without having read it? What makes you think you should have seen it? I am shown things in Torah every day for the first time that I never saw. If you learn Torah for the sake of heaven, every day there's something new for you to learn that you never saw before. Every day. So if we believe that, and we learn Torah new every day, the same Torah has been here for thousands of years, and we bring it to people's forefront in mind and say, look at this. Should they not say, "Well, thanks, Jacques. I didn't know that. That's very enlightening. That's exciting. Yasher Koach, thank you." As opposed to, what gives you the right? I already know it's not like you're saying. I looked it up and didn't see it there. Blah, 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 blah. It's really a stark contrast. I don't have an explanation to it. It's just there's the concept of people believing that they've seen it all, been there, done that. And there's another point of view of thinking every day you can learn something new. Every day you can discover something new. Every day you can open the Torah and see something you never saw before. That's the school that I prescribe to, or that I subscribe to. Okay, that's my school. It's a universe. That's it. I guarantee you, if I'm not doing this already, if I really wanted to, I could teach you a Chiddush every single day until the day I die. I'm halfway doing it now. This Brisk Rav that I'm getting ready to do here, if I ever do it, how many people do you think have learned this Brisk Rav on Abraham and Shem and keeping Shabbos? How many people alive have learned this? Very few. I'll show you through an algorithm. The non-Jews are not learning it because they don't know Hebrew. All right, that's 7 billion gone. Type 1. 15 million Jews. How many of them are not religious? Let's say 14 million. Type 1. Of the 1 million left, how many of them are yeshivish? Let's say there's 200,000. Now you're down to 200,000 people. Of the 200,000, how many of them are litvish, meaning they're learning Talmudic insights? The number now is radically small. And I'll tell you what, if you're going to learn rabbinic insight, and I've been in yeshiva a long time, chances are you're not that interested in the Torah for the non-Jew. Just not that interested. So let's say there's David Katz, who is interested in Torah for the non-Jew. What's the Chiddush? The Chiddush is Jewish David Katz finds the Brisk Rav on a random insight. Is it possible that 7 billion non-Jews would find that Brisk Rav interesting? Or is that a ridiculous claim? The Chiddush is the 7 billion non-Jews have the potential to enjoy the Brisk Rav. Now that's what King David calls a wonder, a miracle. If you're not Jewish, why do you like Jewish Torah? Why do you like the Brisk Rav? That belongs to God. Just like why are rabbis allowed to do Lafi Pshuto, why are the non-Jews allowed to love the Brisk Rav? Yeah. And you know what? When you find awesome things, the world becomes fresh and exciting every day. And if it wasn't teaching 7 billion non-Jews this, we could find Torah that makes old people happy, Torah that makes dogs happy, Torah that makes kids happy, Torah that makes you happy, Torah that makes you happy on Tuesday, Torah that makes you happy at 3 o'clock, whatever it is. For every person, every hour, every place, every creation, there's a Torah world for that thing, that coordinate. That's why Ger is true. That's why Ger is true. Because there is Torah for 7 billion people. It's just that most people never thought it possible. The Ger movement, if you want to call it that, is a collection of souls that believed it was possible. And they saw that it was possible. And they proved that it's possible. And they continued to show with Emunah that it's not even possible, it's probable in its reality. Everybody can be living a fantastic Torah reality if they applied the same wisdom. The convert should be happy of the convert Torah because they haven't even cracked the surface of where they can even go. Everything has Torah. Okay, now let's do the Brisk. V'hinei harambam v'hilchos malachim. Okay, I'm going to try to do this in my Hebrew. In Rambam, Kings, chapter 10, halacha 9, a goy that keeps Shabbos, you put him to death. Type 1. Even if he does it the Shabbos on Monday for himself, he's chayav misa. Chayav misa means put to death. Type 1. Okay. The voyage of the Isra of Shabbos al Akum is, who do we put to death? The Akum. Akum cannot keep Shabbos. He cannot make it a religion. He can't make a mitzvah for himself. Period. He's an idolater. Shame Yisrael. But what about Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? Are they Ava? Are they Akum? Are they Akum? Are they Akum? The question is, by the Avos, did they already take on the name Israel? Meda amrinam she'asu haya lo din Yisrael muma keda amrinam b'kiddushin. The Avos, by HaKadosh Baruch Hu's command, had already began to enter into what is called the name of Israel, Shem Yisrael. And we say in Yevamos that God said to Abraham, Lo tansuv shifcha, the lowly zozera basra. He said, do not take a maidservant. V'chein yalfina v'yahareg Moshe Mitzri meshum. The Saiter Lo Shal Yisrael Chayav Misa. Koze Muchach the Bechavtza Hayu Aleihim Shem Yisrael. That Moses, when he killed the Egyptian, Abraham, and what he did, they were warned not to go against the Torah because there was a shayachis. In other words, shayachis, to be shayach. However you say shayach in English. I haven't figured that out yet. How do you say shayach in English? To be related to. Compatible. There you go. That's good. They're shayach to the name Israel. Ella. The bedin ayadin ben noyach. Okay, so they were not Akum. They were not Israel. But they had a din ben noyach. Does everybody hear that? Din ben Noach. So they had removed from them din akum. Type 1. They no longer had din akum. They were ben Noach. And they were approaching the name Israel. Do you see what the Brisk Rav is doing? He's using the Pshuto ideology to express reality. This is what I do with Ger. We're not saying that there are levels of Ger. I'm a Ger Tzedek, I'm a Ger Taishev, I'm a Ger this. They are terms, oral Torah, Lafi Pshuto terms, to use them to express where one is in their coordinate. They are not implicitly them. Type 1. They're the din of an akum that does Shabbos. Kevan kechavtza hayu kavar Yisrael ve'im shaychim l'Shabbos. Okay? They were not Akum keeping Shabbos. They were already approaching Israel, and they were Shayach to Shabbos. Ela delo nitztavu ve'ein ze chidish dat. But they were not commanded in Shabbos. Just like a ger is not commanded in Shabbos. And it is not called inventing a religion. Ki mashum kiyum ad shalom nitztava. They kept it until the point of command, meaning they did not take it to command. Mishum hachi shapir shayachim heim leshevis mashe ein kain la'akum de lo shevis leshabis im kain heim mechadshin la'atzmin dat b'sham ram shavis u'mishum hachi chayav misa. And Akum cannot do what Abraham did. Therefore, he made a religion, and he is Chayiv Misa. Here's the answer to James Gosnell's question. I would like someone to send this to him if I forget. Okay, someone take this on themselves to send this to James, what I'm about to say. And Penny, I believe you saw this conversation, so you can be the messenger here, okay? Type 1 if you can do that for me. The question was, a ger can do Shabbat not like a non-Jew. But then it was said that a ger can do Shabbos like a Jew. And then it was said that that is confusing. So here's the answer from the Brisk Rav. He is the authority. A ger like Abraham, who's the quintessential ger, can do everything as he's approaching Israel, except for one thing. He cannot apply the proper commandment of Shabbos on him. You understand? There's your answer. He can keep the whole thing up until the point he does not say, so I am commanded in Shabbos. No, he isn't. Yeah, he can do, Abraham did everything, except he stopped short of saying, God commanded me to keep the Shabbat like a Jew. Does that answer your question, Penny? He can keep it up until the point where he can no longer say, or he cannot say, God commanded. The word is commanded. God commanded me to keep it like a Jew. Therefore, the ger can keep the Shabbat up until that point. And that's what Abraham did. And Abraham is the example of the highest level ger. Please type 1, everybody in the room. And Abraham then was technically a Ben Noach approaching Israel. And this is why the Rambam in 10:10 uses the language Ben Noach and not ger, because in halacha, a Ben Noach on this level and a ger that we know to be are synonymous. Now, there are Ben Noach that are goyim, there are ger that are converts. There are ger that are not converts, that are Ben Noach that are like ger toshav. That's why it is not a dogma. You have to understand the source at hand to know the vernacular and the vocabulary. It is ultra confusing. The most confusing probably in Torah. Then you can say, well, how do we know Rabbi Katz is a qualified scholar to lead us through the different terminologies? Because Rabbi Katz was blessed to have the book of the Brisk Rav in his home. And thank God for the Brisk Rav, he made it very clear. And the rabbis have impeccable consistency in their lingo. So we can see how Akum is used in Rambam 10:10 or 10:9, both of those halachas, and we have all the different rabbis from all the last X amount of years, all using the same exact sources. How many times have you guys heard me quote Rambam, Hilchos Malachim, chapter 10, halacha 9 and 10? Type 1 if it's over 50. How many times have you heard me use Akum in regard to Rambam Hilchos Malachim, chapter 10, halacha 10 and 9. How many of you have heard me use Ben Noach oscillating with Akum concerning Rambam in chapter 10, halacha 9 and 10? How many of you are aware that I translated a sefer written by Rabbi Aaron Soloveitchik that is due out soon? And those of you that know that or don't know that, how many of you know the entire book is about knowing what I just said about the Rambam chapter 10 and 9 with the Akum and the Ger and the Ben Noach? And guess what? It always works out the same. Why is that? Because there's a wisdom in what I call a Ger code. And all the rabbis used it in the exact same way. How many of you guys have heard of the Lubavitcher Rebbe? And did you know that he wrote a Sikha on Ger? And guess what? Guess what sources he quotes? The same sources. Guess how he uses them? The same way. How many of you have ever heard of Rebbe Nachman? He was a rabbi that lived. Guess what he used? The same Ger sources talking about Ger. I think I gave a couple classes in Jock's house, if I'm not mistaken. You see my point. All right, let's finish the Brisk up here. Ready? So now we're saying that the Akum invents the religion. Abraham had a reason. Yada, yada, yada. Behinim avoid relation to Rambam the Akum Shabbos ve'in so la meir im asam mo'i la'atzmo bezel havi chidish hagamayra kayim avam avino kol ha'tayra ashlo nitna filu ervatashili na filu mo'i b'Shabbos Shazelachur haya hadin sheyi astrolo the gamze kayim ashlo nitna the atzlo shapir yachul kayim mishum the cheftza haya Yisrael hine mekevon shahaya shayach atzlo Shabbos hine mekevon shahaya shayach atzlo Shabbos. All he did was he just reviewed the whole thing, that Abraham accepted the whole Torah, all the little points. The Akum invent their own religion. He just reiterated the whole thing. Abraham was different than the Akum because he was headed towards Israel, and he was shaykh to Shabbos. He was shaykh to Shabbos, but he was not circumcised. Lo malhu atzmo. Abraham did not circumcise himself. Who remembers that from last time? Abraham did not circumcise himself. Ela shekara l'shem ben Noach, the Atzlo, he summoned Shem, the son of Noah, to be by him. Lo haya efsharu lekayim es Shabbos ad shelo nitna. Abraham, lo, it's not possible to keep Shabbos and while Shabbos was not given. So therefore, how does Abraham keep Shabbos? Mekevan shehaya ben Noach velo bechetza Yisrael demaha'avos haim hayu Yisrael. Because Abraham was a ben Noach. And he velo bechetza Yisrael the ma'avos haim hayu Yisrael. Velo bechetza Yisrael. One second. Velo bechetza Yisrael the ma'avos haim hayu Yisrael. Hold on. Shekra Shem Renoich had slow low high of Shabbos the climax of Shabbos. Back up a second. There's another chiddush here. Okay, now we got it. Abraham was trying to keep Shabbos. Type 1. Abraham didn't circumcise himself. Remember our previous question? That the circumcision was close to Shabbos? Do you remember that? Circumcision was close to Shabbos? And he called Shem. And Shem did not keep Shabbos. Shem could not keep Shabbos before it was given because he was a ben Noach. and not in the interest of Israel as the Avos were Israel. Does anybody know why Shem was a Ben Noach as opposed to leaning towards Israel like the Avos? Therefore, the Avos had a reason of wanting Shabbos, but not Shem. Very good, Jacques. Very good, Jacques. Ladies and gentlemen, you cannot be more of a Ben Noach than a Ben Noach. Type 1, Jacques. Very good. Very good, Jacques. So what we see here is the Brisk Rav is saying, James Rogers, have you ever heard of the 7 laws of Noah? Have you ever heard of the 7 laws of Noah? Have you ever heard of a status called a Ben Noach? How many of you have heard of a status called Ben Noach? You want to know what the Chiddush is? The 7 laws of Noah were really given to Noah and his children. It was a halachic status. Therefore, Shem, the son of Noah, circumcised Abraham, and Abraham kept Shabbos, and therefore he did not circumcise himself. If you don't find that beautiful, then I don't have any hope for you people. What do you think of that? Is that not amazing? That is so not Lefi Pshuto, it hurts. What do you think, Jacques? It is picture clear, perfect.
It is beautiful.
Abraham's is in a Ben Noach already inclined towards Israel. Shem cannot incline towards Israel because he's a Ben Noach. Abraham summoned Shem to do the circumcision that Abraham can't do because Abraham wants Shabbos, but not like an Akum, because Abraham's not an Akum, but he's not commanded in Shabbos because he's a Ben Noach, and yet a different Ben Noach than Shem because Abraham's inclined towards Israel and Shem cannot be inclined towards Israel. Abraham learned from Shem how to be Israel, and then you're going to say, there's James Rogers on cue, wasn't Shem great though that he would not be a regular Ben Noach prohibited from Shabbos? And here's the answer, James Rogers. James Rogers, was Shem a priest?
Yes.
Okay. Have you ever heard of the Holy Temple, James Rogers?
I have.
And the priests working in the High Temple?
Yes, sir.
Are they allowed to break Shabbos in the temple?
Only for no, not. Well, is the moil work at the temple?
Am I allowed to kill a cow on Shabbos if I work in the temple? The answer is yes.
Yes, you have to.
Last time I checked, wasn't Shem a priest?
Yes.
So guess what? Was Shabbos shaykh to him or not shaykh to him?
Not shaykh.
Because we would think, Lefi Pshuto, like Jacques, that Shem was a low-grade guy. What's the Torah of Shem answer? Torah of Shem, Jacques, semi-pun intended. What's the Torah of Shem? Shem was a priest. He was a priest. So the traditional Shabbos, Lefi Pshuto, didn't apply to Shem. And what did Shem give to Abraham? As you said, Abraham learned from Shem the entire Torah and the priesthood. The story is divine and it works. It works on immaculate levels. What do you think?
Love it.
That was good stuff. Jacques, where you at? Penny, how you feeling? Does this answer some questions? Why? Who? Shem was a priest because the Torah says he's a priest. Shem was a priest, and this is what I was telling James Rogers, that the priesthood extended from Adam to Enoch to the guy whose name I can't pronounce, Methuselah, whatever his name is, Noah and Shem and Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. The priesthood is given to the lineage of Torah that extended from Gan Eden. That's the priesthood. Shem was the father of the Torah of Shem, and therefore Shabbos for him was priestly, pre-Sinai, pre-temple, and Abraham came at it from a different way. Shem got it from the priesthood from his father. Abraham came at it from working towards being Israel. The temple for Shem. Shem, this is a Kli Yakar, I think, and the end of one of the Parshiot and Bereshis. Before the temple was decreed on Israel because of the Mishkan and the golden calf, the temple was above and Atzilus, and everybody was a chariot for the higher worlds. By serving God in this world, you worked in the temple above, meaning Shem was the king of Salem. It was an elevation to the world above. High stuff. Very high stuff. Shem was doing things well beyond, it's like, for example, someone that would learn this not knowing who Shem was, they would call Shem a kitty cat when Shem was a lion. See the mushal? A cat and a lion are the same thing. The cat is Lafi Pshuto, and the lion is the Torah of Shem Sod.